Here we go, back up. So welcome everybody. My name's Allera Dawn. I'm known as the modern day high priestess. I'm a life and business coach, a workplace wellness expert, a multidimensional clear channel and healer, and public speaker and podcast host. And I'm super excited to start the Ask Allera series because there's so many amazing things that want to come through that will expand consciousness and hopefully help change people's lives. So I set this up off the back of some guidance. My teams connected with me and said that I'm to start this series, which will be once or twice a week. There is an email address that's been set up called AskAllera@mail.com. So you can send your questions there. These are confidential. I'm not going to mention anyone's names. It's not for me to go into your personal situation, but if you have a question about something that, you know, perhaps you're learning something or you've got an event going on in your life and it connects to consciousness, energetics, money, wealth consciousness, all of those kind of bits and pieces, then pop it in there and you might get to have that answered in these series. So today's question is, can I manifest anything that I want? And I want to delve into this because it is quite a multidimensional concept and answer. So we need to take a step back. In the mainstream at the moment, what's being taught is, I will call it linear 3D, meaning it's coming just from the physical, mental body, mindset perspective. That's how manifestation is being taught. So it's all about thinking the right thing and taking action. Now, action is obviously deeply important and deeply powerful. And those that think that the action is, you know, to manifest, you just create a vision board or you just journal out affirmations, and that is not the aligned action. The aligned action is something different. It's actually taking those steps forward towards being and showing up as the version of yourself who essentially has already embodied the experience, the version of themselves that would be living from that experience, or how can I put this? The future version of yourself that's done it, essentially showing up as her or him. So action, super important. Action may be learn a new skill. It might be you have to start saying no to certain commitments, so you create space for something new. It might mean setting boundaries. It might mean looking in your business and realizing that there's lots of energy bleeds or people working for you that aren't aligned anymore, or you're surrounded by people that don't hold the same vision and actually can't be happy for you. Therefore, you have some energy bleeds that will influence really what you're creating and your day-to-day. So that really leads on to the other layer of this, which is understanding that you are a multi-dimensional being. You are not just your 3D version of self. You are not just this meat suit. You are multi-dimensional, meaning you are a soul, which is light, sound, frequency. You are part of the God particle, an aspect of it, expressing into form. So when we start to really expand past that understanding of who we actually are, and we begin to also manifest with soul, because this is what is missing in mainstream, we actually begin to activate law of consciousness. So when we're looking at universal laws, it's generally only law of attraction that gets mentioned. That is almost only a small part of the puzzle. When we recognize that we are multidimensional beings that are operating through multiple levels of consciousness, this might be a bit out there for people, it means that we have to recognize that there is part of us that we're aware of now in this conscious now moment, but there's also an expanded version of ourselves that is tapped into multiple layers of possibility, multiple layers of consciousness, that has actually access to information that could really benefit you in the now. And when we're looking at the soul's perspective, we're really looking at, okay, there is a higher self version of you that has the expanded consciousness past your own limited lens of perspective, your beliefs, your traumas, your imprints, the overlays, almost like your blind spot. Now, consciousness is not something that you just access through the mind. We have to recognize this is where things like law of vibration comes in. and we can't think ourselves into a higher vibration. And also our day-to-day actions are not enough, as in like doing exercise and maybe eating right. That will shift your vibration, yes, but it is not enough to shift with law of vibration and law of consciousness, meaning that you raise your vibration, which then allows you to raise your consciousness. So these might be completely new concepts, but they are all of the things that are influencing our ability to create what we desire. We are working with universal laws. So if you can imagine that you may be thinking, look, I've lived a really good life. I've done all the good things. I'm a kind person. I'm helpful. I'm loving. I do all the good stuff. I haven't committed crimes. I haven't hurt anybody. Why is my life not moving forwards? What's going on for me? Why can't I get things to, I feel like I'm always up against upper limits. I feel like there's always something pushing up against it. I can see all of these other people doing these things, yet when I do them, I either create them, but they just never seem to give me the level of fulfillment or the level of expansion that I was hoping, or I just cannot seem to grasp those things. So what we're coming up against in those experiences, and that generally is where many people end up feeling like they're stuck. And it also tends to be even those in the kind of manifestation, they're following the so-called guru, shall we say. They're following all these like steps, the A to Z, and they're still not able to create what it is they actually want. And often the steps that they're taking are steps that are just based in the physical reality. But when we're looking at you as a whole multidimensional being, there is part of you that is both in the energetic realms that has not yet become embodied into the physical. Therefore, you have a wider level of consciousness that is affecting this now time moment. So before we come into this incarnation, we make pre-agreed soul contracts around maybe having children, certain things that we desire to grow, master, experience. We may also have particular levels of purpose or mission, and we will have orchestrated certain events, including experiences that would be deemed perhaps traumatic or overwhelming or negative, because there is some level of residue energy or some lesson or learning that we have orchestrated to go through something so that we can gain a level of understanding and mastery that only comes through going through it. So we set up an experience for ourselves. Now, when we come into this incarnation, we obviously go through a level of veil of illusion as we come in from 5D and above, which is soul level and above, through 4D, which is the astral plane. So think the ancestors, think spirits, guides, that kind of thing. Then we come through into the 3D consciousness. Whilst we do that, we take on an overlay, like a grid of ancestral overlay, we'll call it that, which means that we take on beliefs, karma, contracts, vows, all sorts of pieces that are connected to our family matrix line. So we end up creating, not just from ourselves and who we truly are as souls, clearing our own pieces from other experiences, timelines, for example, we're actually also creating through the lens of our ancestors, including their karma, karma is not just negative, it's just cause and effect of choices, decisions, thoughts, beliefs that were in another timeline that were out of alignment with divine universal law. And what can sometimes happen is that we come into family lines that have some really dense karma, some dense pieces around female empowerment, around marriage, love, money, all the massively charged things. So of course, in this incarnation, you experience maybe abuse, you experience some level of trauma that is a pattern that has come in through the family line. This is all frequency. This is vibration. This stuff sits in your body, your cells, and the multiple layers of your energy field. So remember, law of vibration means that all of this information is actually what's contributing to essentially what you are emanating. So when we look at be, do, have, meaning who you be, which is all of this stuff that's in your field, the energetic resonance, whether you're conscious of it or not, it's there. when we're looking at manifestation at the moment, it's pretty much coming from almost like the mindset, trying to master the mind, the focus of attention. Some of that, obviously, that is deeply important. But when we're looking at frequency and vibration, we have to look at really the energetics, the soul, and we're going into the unconscious. So when we understand that 95% of what you are creating in the world is literally, your reality is a reflection of what's happening in your unconscious. So we can look for clues with patterns, with experiences. We can look at it through illness. Anything that has manifested into physical form, an ailment and illness, must first have come through the energy planes before manifesting into physical form. So that means that if the physical is the densest place that we manifest and we create from, we can track the energy back to where was the root? Where did that illness come in from? Is this something that I'm processing on behalf of my ancestors? We understand science recognizes epigenetics. We hold imprints from our ancestors. Those imprints literally affect our vibration. They affect what we are creating, our timelines. And actually, we have the ability to clear energy lines, to clear trauma, to clear beliefs which are held on 4 different levels. Some of them will be passed down genetically. There'll be stuff that is in your DNA that is imprinted there from your family lineage, and it's not always helpful. So you might, in your conscious mind, be journaling away saying, well, I think that the belief that's holding me back is I'm not worthy. But then you might be actually holding a very deep imprint from your ancestral line that really goes very deep around not only unworthiness, but perhaps abandonment. There might well have been an experience where somebody was orphaned, or there was an experience or some level of trauma that created that imprint, that then you have come in, taken that imprint on, and you are creating from it. So when we begin to look at, the frustration that comes with the modern day manifestation processes, part of it is because it's not taking into account that you are more than the sum of this physical incarnation. You are a multi-dimensional being, an individual. You hold consciousness outside of your lines of awareness at this time. When we realize that everything has to happen in the energetic realms before it is manifested into physical, it means that we can then start to explore what's happening in the energetic field that is influencing the betrayal in my business, or the money block, or why am I getting this pattern with men affecting me in this way? There's a certain cycle going on. We can begin to track the energy of these events, understand where it comes from, what we are holding on to, whether from this incarnation, from our ancestors, or also from our other timelines, meaning multidimensional versions of self, meaning that you could have had lifetimes in other dimensions, realms, realities that are influencing you in this timeline, because you are a soul that is multidimensional. And as we are raising consciousness, and this is about law of consciousness, and this year is about era of frequency, we have to start looking past this present timeline and incarnation for the answers. It's about drawing outside of the boundaries. And this goes for our money story, our money trauma. All of these things, all of them have roots into the energetic realms that give us answers, clues, and ways to collapse out the discordant frequency, shall we say, so that we can actually vibrate higher. We can start to manifest from a different set point. So if you can imagine, if you came into a family line where there's a lot of abuse, most people didn't feel safe in the family. You're treading on eggshells. It wasn't safe to be fully who you are. You were not witnessed. You didn't get your needs met. And there was a lot of scarcity of love, scarcity of money. So your set point for abundance, because abundance is not just about money, it's about literally, love, met needs, the fulfillment, it's about health, it's about money as well. Your set point is defined by your environment that you have been entrained to. So quantum physics recognizes this. We're looking at law of entrainment. So we get entrained to a set point that feels energetically safe and normal for us. Therefore, we unconsciously have this patterning that we vibrate and attract like for like circumstances again. We can change behaviors, learn new skills, and kind of push our way through things. But often, as we see with people like the lottery winners, they will often lose all of their winnings within 2 years because they have a cycle of feast and famine, meaning they did not have the capacity or potentially the financial literacy, the confidence, and also the set point to hold the expanded abundance. Now, when we're looking at abundance, it's a word that's used quite generally, but if we can lift it into frequency, we're looking at really light and sound. Your soul is light, sound, vibration, frequency coming through you. When I speak, you are hearing the harmonic, my unique harmonic. Nobody else has the same tones that you do through your voice, which is why sound is so, so powerful for healing, for so many different things. It means that the more that you embody the truth, meaning the clear channel of your soul through you, without the old set point, without the old traumas, you are going to start to free up your energy field to actually start to radiate at a higher frequency. And when we begin to understand the laws as well, like the as above, so below, that is a universal piece of knowledge that whatever happens in the energetic realms must then happen in the physical realms. So when we recognize that if we align our experiences, what we're trying to manifest to soul, and we start to connect with our higher self, we start to understand what those pre-agreed soul contracts are, and we start to make choices that are in alignment with the desires that our souls are wishing to birth through us, and that can come through in our businesses, in our lives, because that is actually true energetic alignment. That's how we start to manifest very quickly, because we are literally operating in alignment with all of these different universal laws that I've just shared. And I know there's lots of different pieces here, but it's giving you a level of why it's not working for people consistently at this time, and why actually this law of consciousness, which also goes into law of ascension, which is about you embodying more of your soul expanded consciousness whilst in physical form, and more of us are doing this, which is creating a mass consciousness shift, i.e. a spiritual awakening. It's going to shift our perspectives, our choices, and how we live our lives. We are stepping out of an old paradigm. So that also means that the old way of doing things in pretty much all areas are going to change and going to need to change. And a big thing around this is we're moving into the heart field. So in modern day manifestation, you're not taking into account really the heart. The heart is a powerful electromagnetic field. We've been through so many different traumas and experiences that we close our heart. And when we close our heart, we actually lose our sensitivity to be able to radiate out our frequency. And when we understand that there are another universal principle, there's as above, so below, but there's as within, so without. It's the holographic nature of the reality, meaning that whatever is kind of operating encoded within our being, our physical being, and our energy bodies is what we are then reflecting out and attracting. It's our set points. So if your heart is closed, and that is the electromagnetic field that is literally emanating out that essence of who you are, and in turn attracting back to you what it is that you desire, especially when we come into alignment and we start to connect more to soul, and we start to clear the energy channels, clear the past lives, clear the karma that's in the way, the old dense energy, we start to embody more light. We start to vibrate at a higher frequency. We start to have an expanded energy field. And when we have an expanded energy field, we naturally can receive more. And that receivership, we're in an energetic universe, will come in through multiple streams of abundance, opportunities, people that are aligned with our frequency. So when we have kind of gone through life never being told that ultimately one of the quickest ways to shift your vibration is to clear your energy hygiene, including energy hygiene in your space around you and clearing your own energy field. It's like somebody's not told us how to brush our teeth and we wonder why we've got, manky mouth. It's like we are needing to learn this new skill because it actually is how we expand our consciousness. It's how we start to embody more of our soul. It's how we start to shift literally the evolution of what's happening with humanity at this time. And this might be within the realms of what you understand or not, but on a frequency level, allow that to, if you can, come into the heart. We also need to look at law of karma. So karma affects manifestation. Cause and effect that you have taken in and out of alignment with divine universal law will impact your trajectory, meaning that there's not any judgment, it's actually neutral, but it means that we have two choices. The 3D linear way is to work through your karma the hard way, I call it. It's the unconscious way. It's the way that you literally have to climb all the mountains and go through all the difficult experiences and all the challenging relationships. But the multidimensional, powerful way is to recognize that, okay, so if I want to change my life in this way, I need to then proactively look at how do I understand what are the blocks to me taking this energetic leap? What's in the way of that? That will be beliefs, trauma, and karma. Karma can be cleared proactively, energetically. And that shifts our vibration enough to then start the trajectory of us moving into creating a new life reality experience. So that means that we are always going to have some level of karma to clear, but we get a choice. We can go into the drama of reenacting it in a relationship dynamic, or we can go in and heal the root wounds that cause us to keep on in these unconscious patterns of being triggered or showing up or attracting certain dynamics. And we can clear those things at root. We can learn the new emotional intelligence. We can learn the new healthy habits, and we can shift our life. But because our energetic set point is no longer holding on to maybe the abuse frequency or whatever it is, we are not attracting in, we haven't got the victim frequency, we're not attracting in the persecutor, which is literally the other side of the same coin. In an energetic reality, you are attracting to you something that is in resonance. So when we shift up our awareness and our frequency, we can set different boundaries, different standards, and that literally elevates us into different timelines. So timeline jumping is something that is being used as a term quite a lot at the moment. And I also want to bring this in. So the quantum field is something that ultimately it's out of the 3D consciousness. So the quantum field is what quantum physics and quantum biology is beginning to really explore quite rapidly. And it actually is really this merging of science and spirituality. And it is deeply powerful, and it's going to shift everything in science and medicine actually for us. So this is such an exciting time and such an empowering time. And it also means that this awareness that the limits of other people's beliefs are literally often limited by the experiences that they've had. Yet there are so many people that are working in the quantum, that are working outside of these realms of the physical reality, that are creating what would be seen as miracles because they are playing in alignment with, the different universal laws. They are beginning to align to soul, and they're beginning to shift their whole lives in ways that might look like a miracle, but actually they are just operating with a higher consciousness, awareness of how to play with energy. So when we're looking at timelines in the quantum field, time doesn't exist. It means that there are multiple streams of possibility. It means that past, present, future, and parallel versions of you, because there are parallel versions of you. Think Gwyneth Paltrow in Sliding Doors, the version of you that got on the train and the version of you that didn't. There are many different versions like that that are affecting you. And that's when we're looking at the soul, the multidimensionality, and I'll go into that in another session. It means that you are choosing your own adventure to a degree. So in the quantum, there are multiple timelines. There's the timeline version of you that literally takes no action, doesn't do any healing, stays in a bit of victim mode, stays in fear, following what, you know, the mainstream narrative is, and they're locked in that consciousness. That is a choice. When we play in the realms of law of time, we're actually playing within the realms of the 3D physical. And we know that our consciousness is far greater than that. So when we actually do our manifestation in the quantum field, which is infinite possibilities, where ultimately, if you even have a conscious awareness of something being possible, i.e. you've seen it, you know it, you've been given the guidance of it, you are tapping into quantum field, and it means that it is possible. However, for you to make yourself physically aligned, for that to ground into your manifestation, into your day-to-day life, you're going to need to recognize that there are a vibrational set point that needs to change. There is something that needs to change in alignment with that. So it becomes a quantum leap into a future timeline, essentially, a version where you are living, breathing, expressing that lifestyle, that experience. You have literally taken your current, not just mindset and beliefs, but you have literally shifted into a different timeline. And this is where really it gets really exciting, because the choosing your own adventure means that you have so much more power, knowing that there is always an answer to any block, energetic, physical, or experience in your 3D reality. Therefore, there is always a solution. There's always another way. There's always a higher timeline. That goes for money. And money is an energetic, I'll go into wealth consciousness again, because actually that in itself, money is actually a resource to support you in grounding that soul frequency into physical form. It's a vehicle, so it can be used with any intention, meaning for good or bad. So the more people that have, you know, soul-led businesses and are making impact and positive change through using their money in positive ways, means that we get to actually shift this kind of earthly reality through the use of our wealth creation. So we are moving into this really, really powerful time, and it is going to mean that we start to become, I call it the soul detectives, where we start to recognize that, well, you know, if I've only been doing therapy, for example, and all I've been doing is talking about things, but I'm still experiencing the same patterns, I don't really feel that different. And, you know, it feels nice to have shared with somebody that lifted the baggage. I've got an awareness of what went on in my childhood. However, the same patterns are manifesting. I'm still getting the same dynamics in relationships, even though I'm setting boundaries. I'm still attracting the narcissistic guy or whatever else it is. I've still got this cycle with money. I can maybe only make a certain amount, and then suddenly the bills come in, there's something happens that the money goes back out again. This is where we get curious. This is where we work with soul and energetics. We get to root, we alchemize it energetically. Then we are opening up ourselves to a new timeline, because we have literally elevated frequency. We're playing in the quantum field of possibility. So we've chosen a different route. This is why also, and this was quite interesting because I've had 3 instances of it this week, we are going to need conscious awakened lawyers. We're going to need conscious and awakened service providers, accountants, you know, investment managers, wealth managers. Why? Because when you're playing in the quantum, you can't necessarily forecast in the same way you would in a linear locked-in mindset, meaning that the quantum leaps of growth that people have, money in their circumstances, in how rapidly they are shifting and changing their lives, is not going to fit the old model of expectation. And you're not going to be able to necessarily forecast it in the same way, because you literally, if you change one belief, clear one piece of trauma, you shift a whole timeline and you open up so many different new opportunities, and it comes in quickly. So when we're also looking at manifestation and we're beginning to understand the soul, we recognize that, you know, so much of our earthly experience has been devoid of understanding the energetics of the soul. And when we begin to understand that even fertility, when we look at fertility issues, you've taken on an overlay from your ancestors. That's going to influence fertility. You also have certain agreements at a soul level yourself as to when you will have children or won't have children, or who you might have with. That information is accessible. It's not like it's a nobody knows and there's no way of finding out. There's something called the Akashic Records. If you work with somebody that is able to go to the depths that I'm talking about, you can pull this information up. We are not being hidden from this information anymore. And when we start to recognize that it becomes a soul growth and contract to have children, we can do some of the inner karmic clearing, the inner energetic clearing, so that we actually are high enough vibration to be in alignment with the new soul that we're to birth through us, meaning that we are literally working really cohesively as this multi-dimensional being that we are. Even when we're having conscious conception, we're bringing children through, because many of the new children that wanting to be born do not want to be born with the dense abuse, karma, or the heaviness that we've had to inherit. Those that are, I would say, the way showers that have been activated already, they've been working through, probably since about 2012 and before, deep karma, both collectively, ancestrally, for themselves, and other timelines that they've had, because they've been raising the consciousness in prep for really what's happening now, which is mainstream waking up, which means a purification process that will look different for different people. It will show as, you thought you'd healed yourself, but it was a bit of a band-aid approach. We hadn't got to root. And that stuff's going to come up. It's going to show up as mental health issues. If you are massively off track, I call it the big boot of the universe. This is where things begin to, rather than you being on a timeline that is deeply misaligned with where you're meant to be, things get stripped away. Suddenly a job loss or a relationship breaks down. And in the humanness of this moment, we get this shock and this fear, and there's so much change. But when we're working with soul, we understand there is another higher perspective, a higher vision for us. And we have to create this space, whether it's energetically or also letting go of old situations that aren't in alignment, for us to come into alignment with soul, which is always going to be aligning us to the highest expansion of who we truly are. And recognizing that there are many others, including myself, that has literally been through this my whole life. And I've guided people for the past 6 years through these processes. And this is going to become more of the norm. So there's not going to be a way of avoiding our deeper stuff coming up to the surface to be alchemized. But we can do it proactively. We can do it with grace. We don't need to reach rock bottom and a mental breakdown in order to alchemize this stuff. And a big piece of the work that I do is sharing real world toolkits so that you can actually do this. So I went through a process in about 2015 where I was going through probably about clearing about 300 past lives. And they were showing up in my body. They were flashbacks. They were memories. They were things that were beginning to get activated and manifesting. They were showing up in my reality with people and the things that were happening. I have gained my skills. My gifts have switched on through initiation. So I had to literally really start to find a process where I could clear and collapse these timelines, the old traumas, the karma very quickly and reset without being destabilized. And at the time, I was working on the sales and trading floor for a global investment bank. And the toolkit of the express clearing that I went through, I actually created into my first program for my business, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people that have done that now. So there are tools that allow you to keep your feet on the ground and function, because this is not the era where we take on the hermit role and we disappear off into the cave and that's where we do our inner inquiry. No, we're actually here to really go through a deep embodiment process where we are clearing out the stuff that is really illusion, old frequencies, dense stuff, really getting aligned to soul, and doing it whilst we are in communities, in our businesses, in our workplace, in our homes, because we are literally being asked to crack on and live from the embodied space, not the old detached, disembodied spiritual kind of way of being where you disappeared off and that's where you got your spiritual solace. No. This is about raising mass consciousness and all of us rising together and learning from each other. And this also comes into another law, which is called the law of entrainment, which quantum physics looks at, if you look at the grandfather clock, So you've got a room full of grandfather clocks. You've got one massive big one that's a very dominant frequency, and all these small ones. If you left them all in the room, they would all, within a certain period of time, align and entrain to the same swing, pendulum swing, dominant frequency of that main pendulum. And what happens is that we are energetic beings that are being entrained by our environment, our space. We are being entrained by the groups of people that we're around. When somebody works with me, they are being entrained to my energy, meaning my nervous system, my vibration, my consciousness, which is why they get such a fast track, because I'm not coming down to a lower frequency. They are getting raised to mine, and I set up a container, a vortex that holds them at the new set point, which is how, as what I've just explained, my clients get rapid results, because they are literally being held almost like in a piece of architecture. My modality is called the Soul Architect Series. I'm holding them in a structure to hold them at the higher frequency so they can timeline jump. They can create something new outside of the linear that they would have been able to do themselves. This isn't necessarily magic, but the principles of actually the true magic is what I'm explaining. Because those that were practicing the ancient wisdom, the occultists, the mystery schools, shall we say, that held all this coding, this wisdom, they are operating from what I'm talking about. And this is about us, the rest of mainstream now, waking up to these truths and embodying them ourselves. So this is like such a deep, powerful time for us. And it may seem like the world's falling apart. But what we've got to understand is if we spend our time looking at the demolition site, our frequency is going to be on distraction, recognizing that we're actually here to be rebuilding the castle, shall we say. And that comes from us. It's not us waiting for someone else to do it. It's not us waiting for a political leader to guide us. It's coming to each of us getting aligned to soul. And when we align to soul, we align to all our other soul group and soul tribes. So other people, communities, connections that also have similar soul contracts to make certain changes in different communities. And that will be across education, legal system, medicine, business, finance. Everything is receiving its own evolution of expansion. So when we're looking at entrainment, you may find that you are no longer in alignment with the area that you live in. The vibration of the land is too low. It will mean that people will start to move house. You may find that if you start doing your inner work, your vibration and your consciousness and your expansion, your perspective and your desires and your value and your worth shifts. Your vibrational frequency is no longer in alignment, maybe with friends or the workplace or even a partner. We are moving out of a paradigm whereby we were having obligation as the reason why we were together. Like, oh yeah, we're just, when we get married, we stay together for, 40, 50 years till death. It's like, well, ultimately, these old conditions of vows and contracts and things that are energetic, that follow us through different timelines, they're up for debate now. So if you have expired a certain agreement and you no longer are able to be fully expressed and yourself in expansion, in the truest expression of who you are, and you're not able to actually fulfill your soul contract, your pre-agreed contracts, whilst in these circumstances, you will find that there will start to be a discord. There will be relationships that have to renegotiate the dynamics so that there is the potential for both individuals to grow. It's not a 3D construct of obligation of why we're doing anything anymore, which means we're being given the key to our own cages. We no longer need to subscribe to archaic collective consciousness beliefs, which have been fed through us, through our ancestors, through the education system, through pretty much everything. And as women, I mean, the level of stuff that we are having to free ourselves from is literally a level of slavery to patriarchy, whether we were currency, whether we were, our worth, whether all of it. So these pieces will come up. There is absolutely no way of avoiding it. And they will come up in whichever way they need to for you. They might come up in your business around money. They might come up in relationship around, love or something else. It may show up as a health issue. This is really, really common. You know, I ended up having 2 serious injuries that within 6 weeks of each other, and it was my soul's way of intervening because I'm quite a powerhouse. So, and I'm used to, like, you know, high generation, and, you know, once I've got something behind me, I'm off. So if I'm careering off in the wrong direction, my soul intervened with those 2 injuries to make me stop, make me realign to the path I was meant to be on. And actually, that was one of the things that put me into re-embodying my healing abilities, because I was actually told that I'd be on crutches and on a boot and everything for 9 months. And I thought, no, I don't accept that. And I'm going to find another way. And I did. And my MRIs within 2 months, basically, I'd healed myself, switched on many latent gifts, done a lot of deep inner work that did not make any linear or logical sense, but I was tapping into soul. And on such an intrinsic, deep knowing of myself, I followed that. And one of the biggest challenges we have is to get out of our heads, into the heart, into connecting to soul. And I want to add something else here. We're not doing this alone. 3D manifestation that's being taught in the mainstream is about us trying to do it against the universe almost, which, as we've just discussed, is missing out on loads of different things. We have spiritual guides and teams that we have set up before we came here to assist us at different levels of experience. We also inherit spiritual bondage through our ancestral line, and that can affect fertility, money, all sorts of things, in particular for women, because that would have then meant that you were going into a different tribe and, you know, bringing together 2 different bloodlines. There's a lot of energetics around control. So you can clear that. There is, now we have the power to be able to track that, clear that, alchemize that, because that is actually crossing free will, which comes on to the next thing. We have a free will choice, just as, you know, if you're in a relationship and your partner chooses to keep their head in the sand, stay with the addiction, stay with the numbing, and you suddenly want to live a better life, have a different experience, they have free will to choose what they're doing. Even if you've got a wedding, you know, vow between you, that means nothing. Yeah, this person as an individual soul has free will to make a choice over their own autonomy. You cannot overpower that in alignment for what you want, because actually you then create negative karma for yourself because you are infringing someone else's free will. There was a karmic payback for that. So also I want to add to this, TikTok is awash with manifestation stuff, including witch talk. Now, when we start to play in the realms of magic, and I'm not going to go too much of that here, but we also need to understand free will means that you cannot manifest, you know, that your boyfriend, that, you know, that he must do, behave, or, you know, show up in a certain way that you desire. When we have energetic influence and intention over somebody else, that is a breach of free will. And when we compound that with, you know, magic in different forms that I know is being shared, that again is a breach of free will. And there is kickback. And there's often energetic kickback as well, because if somebody tries to take control over someone else, you've got no idea who their energetic teams are, and you've got no idea what architecture they have in their field to defend against stuff like that. So you send, you know, it's like trespass. You try to trespass someone and push them around. There's going to be some kickback energetically. You might be unconscious of it, but it might actually play out in things starting going wrong in your life. So this is where we start to be really, really powerful in understanding that although mainstream manifestation is talking about thoughts, they don't understand that thoughts have a frequency of vibration, and energy follows intention. So your thoughts are like literally commands. Spoken word is the 4th code of creation. This is why when I'm working, I'm speaking out commands, because I'm operating and shifting the energies and the beings that I'm working with through my words, through my command, through my frequency. So when we speak things, we are literally influencing energy. Again, these things all have an effect on others, but they also affect what we're trying to create. So really being conscious around certain looping patterns and getting curious around these things, this is all part of the process. Gossip, one of the lowest frequencies, yet it tends to be what most of our reality TV show is about. When we listen to it, we entrain to it energetically. that's not going to help us in raising our frequency, our consciousness, and expanding, into the heart, into the unified field, which we need to raise our frequency to be able to play in the quantum field. So this requires not sacrifice. I don't like that word. It requires choice points. It requires a change in behavior. One of the quickest ways to compress everything that I've just talked about and shift things is through energetic hygiene, energy clearing. If you go onto my website, www.purelight1111.com, there are some energetic resources that are free. There's something called the Abundance Blueprint Upgrade. You can sign up to that and it will take you through, like the conscious awareness that I've just provided now. I always have to give you conscious awareness to bring this stuff up into the field. Then I will do the clearing work. So you get a recording that will take you through the deep clearing to shift stuff. You can start feeling different very, very quickly. This is not something that is a lifetime, because we're going into the deeper stuff and we are clearing stuff in a new way that takes in a multi-dimensional perspective. And that is my gift. That's the modern day high priestess. That's what I'm bringing into all these areas, because nothing changes unless we individually change. And that requires these multi-levels. So if you've been beating yourself up and you've been thinking, well, the universe isn't rewarding me for all these things, and I'm doing all the stuff that the manifestation books are telling me to do, you've just elevated your frequency and expanded your awareness of actually truly what's going on just by spending time for the last 46 minutes in this video. Yeah, this is giving you so many access points, codes, keys, and frequencies that you can start to play with. You can start to explore. You can start to recognize that, okay, I've just been only watching, level 1. I now need to expand to level 3, 4, 5. It just means there's more tools to play with. And that's actually how you start to expand and how you start to really shift your reality. So I'm super excited to have shared this with you all, and thanks for the comments. And I hope that this has been really useful for you. I'm going to be saving this down and I will pop it on my YouTube channel. As I mentioned before, the AskAllera@mail.com is the mail group that I've set up. So send me your questions, because I'm going to bring through these answers on a multi-dimensional layered way. When I speak, I am channeling at times. So there is an energetic transmission with what I'm bringing through. The more interaction, the more people that are sending me things, I'm creating a new energetic morphogenic field, meaning I can tap into really the consciousness of the group consciousness. And that means that I can speak to the group consciousness. So I can start really accessing stuff and bringing things into awareness. And then we can start to change things. And this is really showing you also entrainment. It means that this is the power of collective thought, the power of collective belief, the power of collective change. It's working so, so potently, even in these energetic spaces. So thank you so much for taking time out today. And if you want to connect, you can connect with me through my website, www.purelight1111.com. This is being streamed to my LinkedIn page and my Pure Light 1111 page. So I'm super excited to be sharing all this with you. And I would love to know any feedback and comments. You'll be able to comment this, I believe, underneath the video, I would imagine, on one of the platforms. And yes, I will catch up with you very soon. Depending on, everything's very fluid in the way I work, meaning that if I get, soul says go, source says go, I will step up to the plate and bring stuff through. And what I feel is that as we are raising, basically this year, we're going to be going through 40-day cycles, meaning every 40 days, there is a shift that is going to bring up a layer of the illusion, shall we say, the old traumas, the memories that we need to alchemize to go to a new set point. So energy clearing is going to become non-negotiable. This is why I'm teaching this stuff into the wellness festivals, into workplace, working with my individual clients, because these are going to be like brushing your teeth. So as things like that happen, this can be a resource that you can come to get insight, to get stability by entraining to somebody's perspective, their energy field that is stabilized at a higher set point. That also means I'm not operating through fear. I will view things in the quantum and at the higher perspective, so I can see the bigger picture of what's going on. And I can translate that in these spaces. I'm a channel. This is part of my soul contract, one part of it. So make yourself, connect, communicate, make this collaborative. It's a co-creation. I'm doing this to help because I know that we are going to go through one of the biggest accelerated consciousness shifts in the next 2 years. We are going to ascend our vibration, our consciousness, our awareness, and this stuff in our planet, the kind of acceleration we've seen that would normally take 200 years. That means you're going to need to be stabilized. You're going to need to have a toolkit and be willing to let go of what worked in the past to learn new things. And that actually, when you get into the flow of doing this stuff, you can ride the waves rather than feeling that you're being smashed by them. You're not a victim. And it means that also your manifestations can come really, really quick. What we can create, not just collectively, but individually, is accelerated. Because if we are going through this process of almost like a monthly purge, but we do it proactively with elegance, with grace, we do it knowing it's going to happen, knowing that what your plans are for the month, clearing that stuff in advance means that you don't get derailed. It means that you co-create with the cosmic order of what's happening. It means that actually you step into your power, and it means that you will be able to integrate more of soul, more of source through you. Therefore, you are actually able to create more abundance in your outer reality in whatever form that is, because there is no judgment. But, if you're trying to also create a life that is the Instagram life, it may not be in alignment with actually who you are as a soul, and you're doing it because you think that's the only way to get validation or worthiness. It's going to be hard to manifest like that because it's deeply misaligned. So this is where we get to really own, love, cherish, and know who we are at soul level. And then actually we begin to go, I'm unapologetically myself. I'm going to show up in my uniqueness because that's my magic, that's my vibrancy, that's my art, that's my gift. And in doing so, your energy field is vibrant, it's expansive. Yeah, you're going to be felt. And you don't need to fit into anyone else's boxes. You get to be more and more and more of yourself. And it's just layers of that rather than, oh, I'm 30, I should be doing this. Or, oh, at 40, that means I'm meant to look like this. All the bullshit goes. We don't need to play to those rules anymore. So for those that this resonates with, connect with me. I've got different groups. I've got different programs. I work one-to-one with people. My expertise is really deep dive into the trauma stuff, the alchemy, the psychic surgery, the stuff that really shifts up. No matter what experience you've had in this or any other lifetime, it can all be alchemized. It can all be transformed. And actually that transformation process becomes part of your gift. And it actually will often be part of your purpose. So sending you lots of love. And I've really, really enjoyed doing this first session. And I hope this has been beneficial for you all. And enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.